Good evening and welcome to Get Into It with Taz and Chris.
Hello,
And
everybody.
tonight we've got some great topics for you, but quick bit of breaking news as we were preparing to go live. I just got this alert. Federal judge issues order blocking Texas's 6-week abortion ban. So that is a plus. But tonight we got some good stuff to get into. First things first, I know a lot of people are very familiar. Well, some people are, some people are not, regarding the unfortunate school shooting that happened in Texas today. But there's another caveat that goes along with that. So I'm going to play this clip and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about it.
Kevin, Chief Sesney with Grand Prairie Police. Just a couple of comments I'd like to add and to underscore. Our teams have finished searching the school. We didn't find any additional threats. The suspect is in custody. I really want to underscore a point that Chief Colby just made. A lot of our law enforcement resources were being diverted with inaccurate social media threats. I've got a call to action for parents. Take a look at your kids' social media. If they're putting out threats on their schools, they're going to be arrested and they're going to be prosecuted. It's very important that you get involved with your kids' social media. During the entire onset of this event, our teams are being divided away from leads of our suspect location with inaccurate information at schools all over North Texas. So it would be very helpful to us for our parents to take a look at their social media accounts of their kids. Last thing I'll say is the collaborative effort with the Arlington Police Department, the Grand Prairie Police Department, the Marshals, North Texas Fugitive Task Force, and others, Mansfield ISD, worked very well together to get the suspect into custody very quickly. I can tell you there is no danger to the public is safe, and the suspect is in custody.
So, on top of police, FBI, ATF, and the list goes on, working to get children safely back to their parents because there were roughly 1,700 students that they had to evacuate. They found the suspect isn't currently in custody and has been since earlier today. But while they were still trying to track him down, they had to deal with scrambling around the city because on social media, other students from around the country thought that it would be a cute joke to threaten their own schools or other schools or even this school that just suffered that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we're creating this environment where it's kind of, and I know recently they've been talking about the whole TikTok thing and these challenges and things like that are just really getting out of hand, like in a way where whether you're taking them serious or not, or these are things that are actually happening or not, there's a lot that just endangers people because now you're taking it out of the hands of, oh, let's track down terrorists or organizations that we can track through our national intelligence. This is happening in your community. These are happening locally. These are happening social media. These are people that are connecting through backdoor means of spreading the word. And it's dangerous. I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are. These things are dangerous because we're already on high alert for a lot of other things. And this just adds to it and makes it really hard for a lot of these agencies to get on top of it.
And I think a lot of times, actually, let's just call a spade a spade. There are far too many adults going to extreme measures to have gotcha moments, to have viral moments without even considering consequences or the real life repercussions that these things can have. You have teenagers, preteens, and even some younger than that. Yes, we know every social media app has an age restriction, but they're banking on the honor system. We put in our own age. We can put in whatever age we want. Let's be real. And you have a lot of these children looking at adults going, oh, well, they're getting paid for their social media presence. They're now an influencer. I want to be the same thing. And they're not thinking about the real world, real life repercussions that come along with these things. They think that it's just a harmless prank. Just like I remember there was a few years ago where they were doing something called swatting, calling 911 and claiming that somebody had explosive materials in their house, or there was a hostage situation going on at a house, not realizing the danger that they would put people under. To them, it's just a cool way to go viral, and it's just a joke. It's not just a joke.
No, it's not.
And these school shootings also show, and it's something we can't expect adolescents to get this if we don't get it as adults. You do not know what lies behind somebody's smile. You don't know what lies behind somebody's laugh. You do not know what lies behind somebody's over talking or their silence. What you think looks like normal and okay and happy, what you value as someone having everything or having it all or having it all together, is somebody else's moment of desperation. And you do not know what that thing is that can send them over the edge. So when you think it's cute to bully people, whether in real life or online, or just keep pestering and poking at somebody's mental health, today's shooting resulted in what they're reporting thus far from a fight. Someone was pushed that far in a fight that 3 to 4 individuals had to be medically treated.
And you see that. I mean, we can talk about adults being adults, and kids are going to be, kids are just going to be kids. We live in an age where kids are taking their lives because of social media. Kids are walking around getting bullied because they're at home, they can't afford to get them a name brand. These are things that are tragic at a young age now. I mean, we've always had some form of bullying, but we've enhanced it 110% with social media. Back in the day, there was no internet. You would just get bullied face to face. Now they can spread videos, photos, things you did at a party, things that we've seen documentaries on where it shatters someone. And in some cases at the home, it may be too late for the parents or somebody at home to catch it. And next thing you know, a life is lost.
I've noticed there's a weird combination of old school tactics and new school tactics. They will call around and do the telephone chain and go, Darren did this and Darren can't stand you and Darren blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And you can't hang out with Darren, isolating him in real life or her. Then going online, trying to have all these gotcha moments to prove that Darren ain't crap. And that weird combination causes people not only to never have a break. Because you're right, when we were growing up, even if you had a bully, put your headphones on, ignore them. They can't talk to you in class. You got a break. You go home. You have a break. Because they're not coming, they can't get through your door to come mess with you all night. But now they don't have a break and they're completely isolated. And then they get to go on, just like the Facebook whistleblower stated recently, to Instagram and Facebook and see all of these, we know, staged photos and heavily photoshopped photos and making it seem with all these elaborate backgrounds as if people just got it going on and have these easy lives. And not just for adolescents, there are adults that are getting to that point where they're self-harming, where they're taking their own lives just because somebody wants to be a keyboard warrior and prove that they're the biggest, baddest on the internet.
People play with people's lives, and it doesn't matter whether you're a teenager or an adult. Doesn't matter what age you are. If you have access and you have the ability to learn these things, which people can master these things the more the time they spend on them.
And please stop telling people to just simply log out, because when folks go, oh, you can just log out. No, you need to understand this new generation and the dynamic and the mindset. And I shouldn't even just say this new generation, this new era. Because even if you log out, even if you block these people, they will create troll accounts to still come after you. They will call you or find someone else to call you or message you. Like, they are relentless. They will not stop. And that's a
yeah. And not to say that those people behind the screen aren't people that really have it going on. I mean, these are people that may suffer their own things, but yet they get a kick out of playing with lives. And that's the difference from somebody that's maybe trying to get their life together, or someone that's maybe just trying to stay in their own lane. There's people that literally get a joy out of putting other people down, and that's where the background of bullying comes from. And I remember back in the day going to school where the bullies you worried about was the biggest guys on the block, the ones with the muscles, the tall, they're this. It was only later that you started to fear people bringing guns or bringing weapons. It was always about, in the beginning, it was always about who could knock you out with a punch. And later it turned, and that ended up bringing in school resource officers. Now all of a sudden you're wanding people for metal detectors and things like that. Things are real. And then you add internet on top of that, you can get to somebody without even laying a hand on them. And you can influence others to almost team up on these individuals. So it's no wonder that these things are happening, and people are crying about, screaming about certain types of guns, which I agree there are certain types of guns that just have no place, but that's not it. You can get to people without a weapon.
Yep.
Your keyboard is a weapon. You can type some harmful things and it'll sit on there. And even if it's removed, well, by the time it's removed, how many views did it get?
And everything on the internet is forever. It is never completely wiped. Trust me. I had the dynamic duo. That's what I call this set of clients. The mother and daughter who sold their original domain but wanted information off of the domain and did not get it before they sold it, and they thought the other person wiped it. And the amount of time that I took to reclaim that, it's never really gone. But I'm glad you brought up one thing, because some people don't want to stay in their lane, and some people are way too judgy, and their belief systems can be extremely harmful. So with that, let's segue into Miss Sage Steele, and let's start. Let me emphasize, start with her views on President Obama. Here we go.
They were wondering, they're like, why is it so important to you to say that you're biracial? I'm like, because my mom's white, she's Irish Italian, and my dad's black. And I'm like, why not? Like, I actually feel like I have the best of both worlds. Barack Obama chose black and he's biracial. I'm like, well, congratulations to the president. That's his thing. I think that's fascinating considering his black dad was nowhere to be found, but his white mom and grandma raised him. But hey, you do you. I'm going to do me.
Joining us now to talk about this is Carrie Champion. She is the host of Stick to Sports.
Yeah. And
let me start by saying this.
It won't be the first or the last. I'll say that to start.
Yeah, but let me start by saying this. The internalized racism in this individual is real. This is what those of us within the Black community say when we point out, when we hear certain people say things, they must have a white mother. Does this rule hold true for everyone who is biracial that has a white mother? No. But we have seen it so much that you have someone that may have some racism in them, whether they admit it or not, or it's outward. You hear their children speak on that. And just because a father is not present in the home, it does not make you any less of anything. And I'm tired of the racial trope of only Black fathers are not in the, no, first of all, every Black woman does not get impregnated by a Black man, just as this woman just admitted her mother did not get impregnated by a white man. and she's a white woman. But also, she only brought up his mother and his grandmother as if his grandfather didn't exist, as if his mother did not have other relationships and there were not other strong Black men in his life, that he did not grow up to become a very strong Black man and an impeccable father. And there was another portion of this interview where she said, she admitted she can't even remember the last time she filled out a census. But if she were, when asked what boxes would she check, and she said both. I can understand that. I can respect that. She is biracial. She should be able to check as many boxes as what she feels identifies her or what actually identifies her.
Mm-hmm.
But to dismiss someone else and play the Candace Owen card is detrimental. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. I can't help but think of the word birther, because it still plays into this whole idea of questioning somebody's validity. And why are we trying to add validity to somebody that we know who they might be? But it's almost as if the more we're talking about it, we're still pointing to somebody's value. And whether you're biracial or not, we still tend to look at, oh, I can tell that person they're biracial, or I can tell that person, they have both parents of the same race. For what means? For what means? Who are they as an individual is what I'm concerned about. How do they project themselves as an individual? Are they positive? Are they helping people? Are they engaged in communities? Now, I'm sure they haven't had it easy their whole lives. I mean, I have 2 kids that are biracial, and you tend to know that, yes, some struggle by acceptance from either community, but when you persevere and you have people that are true by your side, that gives you strength, you come out positive and not negative. You don't start pointing fingers at others saying, well, I had this and you have that, or you don't have this. Then once again, you're starting to try to either validate or not another individual who might be in that same class as you. As when you're checking the boxes, you might be checking other, or you might be trying to say, well, I've always tried to identify more with the Black community, so I'm going to do that, or I've been around whites more, so I'm going to check the white box. Whatever you check, it's still, like I said, it comes down to integrity. And I don't know where she's getting off. And like I said, she won't be the first. She's not the first, and she won't be the last. But you're really going after areas that, quite frankly, you just need to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. And my thing is, it really, truly bothers me when I hear people stand up and go, respect how I identify, as a tear down how someone else identifies.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she was asked the question about how she identifies, what did Barack Obama have to do with that?
Right.
She didn't have to display the microaggressions that those of us in the Black community suffer from every single day. And it is extremely hurtful and frustrating to see someone with melanin in their skin use microaggressions. And it's like, you know what? She stated she has the best of both worlds. I am happy that she feels that way, because I've met far too many biracial individuals that did not feel that they had the best of both worlds. I've met far too many that feel like they're not enough for this side, not enough for that side, or they're pulled. So I'm glad she had that experience, but also there's no reason to microaggress or downplay how someone else identified or their journey through life. And what she displayed gives far too many people in the Black community this misconception that biracial people feel better than the rest of us. And once again, in having conversations with individuals who are biracial and multiracial, they don't feel that way. Or is there a small percentage that walk around and feel like they're the cat's meow because of this? Yeah. But I think there are a lot of people everywhere because of something that feel like they're the cat's meow because of something. But it's like, this is not helpful. It's extremely divisive. But Sage gets worse.
Remember, this isn't her first run-in.
Oh no, but she gets worse because
she was demoted before.
Yeah, but she microaggresses against women. So let's check out this clip and we'll talk about it afterwards.
You know, she talked about a lot of things and she's caught a lot of flack for many of the things she said. One was about female reporters that she has worked with. Let's listen to that.
I do think as women, we need to be responsible as well. It isn't just on players and athletes and coaches to act a certain way. I mean, I've had talks with young women who would come in and they'd intern with me, with our channel, or just other women who reach out to me now. And I've said to a couple of them, they're like, well, would you look at my tape? Would you do this? And I've said, listen, I would love to, but the way that you present yourself is not something I want to be associated with.
Yeah.
So when you dress like that, I'm not saying you deserve the gross comments, but you know what you're doing when you're putting that outfit on too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, number one, I don't know that she apparently thinks she has a bigger platform than needed. Because wow. And we just recently went through the whole Rachel Nichols thing, which was different from this. But for her, after the road she was on, I mean, she should be counting her blessings. She's back on SportsCenter. But she's, like I said, people are going to be quick to, and ESPN came out and tried to counter it because they knew immediately Jamel Hill and Keith Olbermann. You know, you got people that are, you know, that used to be at that network, but also are adamant about things like this, exact things like this that come out, and you're giving a voice to someone that, wow, you know, this is an eye opener. You know, people are just knowing this about this person, whereas maybe close friends or other people may have already known this. But when you have a certain platform and you're carrying yourself and you're actually involved in these things with women or women of color or biracial or whatever you're engaged in, because of your status, and this stuff comes out, people are kind of like, okay, well, you know, you can now go back and apologize, but where are we taking that? Because now we're seeing what we basically needed to see about this person. Remember, apologies, all that does is satisfy networks and people that are like, you better, you know, your agent says you better get out there and apologize. That doesn't take away from who you are and how this came out of your mouth. So we are seeing these things that are definitely for some very disturbing. I mean,
and just like with her, all they do is give a faux apology. Nothing is real.
Yeah.
But I love how these pick me women, and I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. I'm not gonna mince words. That was some pick me shit. I've noticed one thing. They sit there and go, "Oh no, look at how you're dressed." How I feel like it, because a man can dress however he wants to, and no one criticizes him. But they're never really dressed societally conservative.
No.
Because according to conservatives and what's appropriate, Miss Steele shouldn't have had her shoulders out. Miss Steele shouldn't have had makeup on. Miss Steele shouldn't have been sitting there
Yeah.
all over a married man, because Tim Tebow, who she was talking to, her mannerisms, her tone changes, her giggling, her leaning into the camera, and everything, that's flirting.
Yeah.
So, according to her logic, you're asking for it. So, the burden of responsibility for grown men being in control of their thoughts, their words, their actions, and their behaviors now falls upon women, because the last time I checked, the only two grown men that I can say something to, because I'm done raising them, are my two sons. Any other man walking the planet, it is not my responsibility for him to act as an adult man with respect, not only for himself, but everyone else walking around. No one says to a burglar, no, I'm sorry, to a burglary victim, oh, you should have had better locks. If you would have had better locks, they couldn't have got into your house. If somebody jacks your car, they don't go, should we really look for the carjacker? I mean, you should have had a better car alarm. But when it comes to women and what certain men do to women, predatory men do to women, and the discomfort, distrust, and utter fear that they put within us women, it's always our fault and our responsibility. But if we haul off and defend ourselves, and that man gets injured, or lo and behold, he goes on and meets his maker, he's now shaking hands with Jesus, Allah, Buddha, and a few Hindu gods, then we should have had better control over ourselves. Then now we are too emotional. So it's like, Miss Sage, if you get sexually harassed in the workplace, that's your fault. You should have been dressed like you were Little House on the Prairie.
Well, look at the networks. Look at how they are when they're in the studio. I'm not talking about like games when they're sideline reporting, but when they're in the studio, there's clearly a certain dress code that women have. I mean, men in there, they might be in a button-up blue jeans and some sneakers, but the women are always in some form of a skirt and definitely a low neckline. that chest is usually right there for you. There's still that there. So when you get to a certain level, in some aspects, you've made it when you get to a certain level, and then there's others that didn't really go through the same channels as others. Now, if you're of the Black and brown community and you've made it there, you have a good thing going right there. The fact that you made it that far compared to someone else that knew the right person, knew how to shake it the right way, knew how to be friendly with certain executives. There's other people that definitely took some shortcuts. And we found out through other forms that this has occurred at many networks. I mean, I know a lot of people have watched the movie about how Fox used to handle their blondes, their team of blondes over there. It's just, you just don't like this. You just hate to have to see this from somebody who's made it, and now it's like you're looking at them like, you're not representing us. Why? Where did this come from? Who are you representing? You're representing yourself in what way? Because this is clearly yourself you're representing. You're clearly not making a positive impact. Why Obama's name even came up, why this even had to be a conversation, is beyond me. She's in sports, but she apparently wants to increase her platform. And like I said, you have celebrities that are biracial. I mean, I don't hear every week something coming out of Halle Berry's mouth. I don't. This sounds like Candace.
Oh, and she took the compliment of Tim Tebow said that he had read somewhere that somebody had compared her to Candace Owens. She got all giddy and was like, "Really? Where'd you read that at?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't remember." She's like, "Oh, but I just love her." And Tim goes, "I do too." And I'm like, "Tim, you didn't have to tell us that. We knew that."
Wow.
But here's the thing: let us not
Wow.
forget
Wow.
that Sage also said,
Let's not forget where Candace actually came from.
yeah, and this is from a Forbes article from yesterday. ESPN anchor Sage Steele won't appear on air following COVID diagnosis. Controversial comments because she stated, and hold on because I don't want to misquote this.
Yeah, the COVID thing came out second. That didn't come
Yeah,
out right away.
it came out second. That's why I was trying to find a clip of that, and I did not want to go down the rabbit hole of Tim Tebow's podcast because it gives me a headache.
They tried to water down, the network tried to water down this only being about the statement.
Yeah, but the podcast itself was it was giving me a headache. Even me being a pastor's kid, I was like, dude, you are taking evangelical BS too far.
Yeah.
But this, I'm going to quote from the article. However, recent comments still made calling vaccine mandates, quote unquote, sick may have also played a role, with ESPN saying in a statement to Variety that the company, quote, embraces different points of view, unquote, and it expects those views to be expressed, quote, in a manner, unquote, consistent with the company's values and internal policies. I mean, I don't know what kind of conversation they're gonna have. She got COVID. How much they gonna talk to her?
Yeah.
She didn't want to get a vaccine, no different than Candace.
Right.
And I truly, truly hope that as much as Candace Owens, this is just a quick sidebar, keeps traveling, let us not forget she just recently gave birth. She has an infant in her and her husband's care. I hope with everything in my body and soul that her nor her husband or anyone close to them contracts this. And I hope nothing happens to this child, because I've seen too many of these hard-headed conspiracy theory guzzling parents that end up dying and leaving these children orphaned.
Yeah.
And then they don't even have family members that are willing to take the vaccine, so they can't even be placed with a close family member.
Yeah.
Or these children, because of their hard-headed QAnon guzzling Breitbart sniffing parents, they get COVID and they pass away. So I hope this doesn't happen. And I do hope that Sage has a wonderful, well, I shouldn't say wonderful, a speedy recovery, and that she does not become a long hauler.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my father is now considered a long hauler, and I would not wish that onto anyone. Because people think, oh, there's just damage to the lungs, or some people get a little damage to the heart. But my dad is having memory issues that, and people are like, oh, he's older. He's not that much older. And this is not something that's genetic. And his doctor has said it's because for periods of time, you're losing oxygen to the brain. Like, let's be real. But, not wanting to get a COVID vaccine as if you haven't had to get vaccines your entire life to travel, to go to school, to get certain jobs and everything else. And now all of a sudden you'd rather take horse dewormer than this. And then you think that a mandate is sick. Well, you would have hated George Washington. You would have hated 101 years ago when there were mandates for that. You would have hated when it was a mandate for polio. And for those, for the love of God, with these memes going, if vaccines were so safe, why don't you put them in a spoon? They did for polio. There are people still alive to this day that still have the commemorative spoon. So get up your hind horse.
Yeah. I hate to see when somebody has a platform of any size, and I know some have, it's all about followers these days. And I know previously we did talk about the whole, Nicki Minaj thing. It's just these people that have an influence and they just can't use it constructively or in the right way. They jump on some bandwagon that isn't about truth and science, isn't about let's do everything to keep people alive. I mean, it's it's not even about our lives. They've totally twisted it to the point where some of these platforms just aren't serving anybody. They're actually killing people.
Yeah,
They're
people
putting
have
people in
forgotten.
danger.
Well, because people are looking at, I
Well,
need to have a
Nikki
million
said that.
followers. I need to have, you know, 200,000 views, but they're forgetting
Hmm.
if you have, even if you have 50 followers, those are
Hmm.
50 people.
Yeah,
Those are still
yeah,
people. They're not just numbers sitting there.
yeah.
And you cannot let these numbers get to your head and
Hmm.
increase your ego so much
Hmm.
that you're just like, how do I keep them
Yeah,
hanging on my every word? Oh,
yeah.
let me just put out crazy disinformation because everybody loves that. Let me argue with everybody on the internet because everybody loves ratchet drama. But how is that helping anyone? Don't put
Flat
out
Earth.
disinformation. Disinformation hurts people. Like we have gone from people going, oh, we never landed on the moon. And like you
Yeah.
said, flat earth, to now, let me teach you. I know the cure for COVID. You can nebulize hydrogen peroxide. You can die from doing that.
Yeah, and let's just totally ignore the swollen nutsack that you wasted the time of a government, searching to make sure that what this was.
Oh, and then
I
she
mean, there's
doubled down
just
saying that she was invited to the White House, and the White House was like, no, she wasn't.
yeah, it's I'm not surprised. Um, like I said, when this whole show today, we've inputted a lot of the social media influences, and it's not pretty. Now, I'm not saying there's this is a case where the internet's a blessing and a curse. It does have a very positive impact for us. It's not all negative, but unfortunately, the negatives are tragic. The negatives of the internet can result in misinformation, deaths, deaths by organizing, militias. It can be result of suicides. It can the effects that social media has are just enormous now. I mean, and it keeps growing. The more platforms are out there, the more things that are out there, the more growth there is. The more backdoor channels, the more far right allegiance. We've got these secretive. You got to say a code word to watch our program or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's these things are, unfortunately, they're out there because there are groups that want that. There's groups that hang on their words. There's groups that are waiting for instructions. The same way as we saw in the last presidency during the candidates. When Trump was in there about the Proud Boys and all that. We're talking about a group that a lot of people had never heard of, and you're like, who are they? Like, and
Yep.
all of a sudden, within 30 minutes, they got a logo with the saying on it. They're ready to print T-shirts that night. You know, I
Very
mean,
true.
I mean, there are people that are there. I mean, you're talking about people that look at certain individuals, and people get off on that because they look at them like these people that are waiting on my words. You feel like they're your little private personal army. They're mine. They're possession. It empowers these people. It doesn't make them look at them like, what are you all crazy? Why are you waiting on me? It doesn't. They don't. They empowers them. It builds that ego. That ego. The head is inflated, and like I said, this all feeds into the internet. I mean, it's just we see these shootings and all that. Stuff's not going away. Uh,
True. But I'm glad you did point out something that not all internet is negative. So let's take a moment to do something positive. I want you all to watch this and pay attention to what I'm going to put at the bottom of the screen. We'll talk about it when we come back.
One is a cold case that authorities believe some fresh eyes could really help restart. This is Aisha Degree. She was just 9 years old when she went missing near her Shelby, North Carolina home. This was back in 2000. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see a picture of Aisha from that time when she was abducted or went missing. On the right is a progressed photo of what she might look like today. Take a close look at your screen.
Now, here's a more recent case. Donita Wilkerson. She was last seen getting into a silver car outside a motel in Evansville, Indiana, June of 2020. Now, Donita has several tattoos. Getting close and take a look at these pictures. She's got a heart on her lower back and a cross on her upper right shoulder.
If you have any information concerning these cases, you can call the number at the bottom of your screen, which is 1-800-CALL-FBI. They would appreciate any tips that you have.
Yes.
Now, due to the outrage surrounding the Gabby Petito case, and there's outrage for a multitude of reasons. One, yes, the police did fail her tremendously because her death could have been prevented. But also, it really, once again, showed the disproportionate use of resources, media attention, and police presence regarding women of color and white women. So now the Department of Justice is, I don't want to say reopening cases, but making them more known to the public to get things out. I've said this before on another show. I'm going to say it again. There is an app called Ebony Alerts. If you have not downloaded it, it is available for Apple and for Android. Please do so. If you care anything about the Black community, please download this, because anytime anyone from the Black community does become missing and it is brought to the people behind that app, make it known. They do put it out there. They have been able to recover several people because those resources are not there. Before we continue, we're going to discuss one more case, and then we're going to wrap, and then we're going to discuss all of this at once.
Have dropped the ball, and she would have been found by now if she was a white woman. I'm Justin Carter. This is TSR Investigates. Whenever Karen Phillips called her daughter, she always picked up the phone. So when one day, 26-year-old Kiara Coles did not answer the phone all day long, Karen's motherly instinct kicked in. Something wasn't right.
It's just not like my child not to talk to me every day. Even if she mad at me, she's still gonna say something, whether it was smart or not.
Karen did what most mothers do if they don't hear from their child.
I went on my lunch break and I had went to her house to see if she was there, and she wasn't there. So I'm like, okay, maybe she at work.
Kiara Coles, a postal worker on Chicago's South Side, was expecting her first child. Karen called Kiara's job and they told her she was off that day. Karen then called police, and she naturally phoned Kiara's then boyfriend, Josh Simmons.
No, he said he would do everything that he could to help.
She says that was the last time she heard from Josh Simmons. She says that he moved down south and hasn't made contact with the family since.
But once the police went to go question him and he wasn't to be found, then that's when I knew he had something to do with it. Because for you to be the person that we thought you was, why wouldn't you want Kiara found and she carrying your baby?
Then a shocking update about a week later. Surveillance video surfacing from a neighbor's home the same day Kiara went missing. It shows a woman in a postal service uniform passing the front door of Kiara's apartment. She then crosses the street and walks out of frame. But what the public didn't know at the time is that the family and Chicago police used this video as a decoy. The person in this video is not believed to be Kiara Coles. This even coming from the president of the Letter Carriers Union, Mac Julian.
So you don't believe that this video circulating is Kiara at all, but it is somebody dressed in a postal service uniform.
Yeah, it's and more than likely a letter carrier, just a letter carrier who lived over there as well.
You know, in the beginning, I felt that it would help us if I kept it like that, because whoever had anything to do with her would feel like we on the wrong track.
A year went by, and as Kiara's missing persons case went cold, her family says so did police.
So then you guys came out and said, you know what? Forget the police. This is not my daughter. Why did you step up and say that?
Because like I said in the beginning, I thought it was helping us, but almost 3 years later, we still at the same spot. So no, let all the truth be. I know that was not her. No, yes, we know Josh was the last person who saw her.
So where is Joshua Simmons? He's never been charged, and he's only been questioned by police about Kiara's disappearance. We did try to track him down too on Facebook. It appears that he's using another name. We're still waiting to hear back from him. As for Karen Phillips, she says that he has children with other women, and she felt that he may not have wanted to be in a relationship with Kiara. We did reach out to Chicago police as well. In a statement, they wrote in part, quote, "The Coles case remains a high-risk missing person investigation with potential foul play suspected. We're seeking any and all information in an attempt to locate her, and we won't stop until we do."
Wow. Yeah.
And she went missing in October 2018.
And here we are.
And on top of that, there are several names of white women who have gone missing, whether they have made it home safely is relative, or their bodies were just recovered, that several people, even if they just sat down and thought for a moment, could bring their names up. Really think about it. What Black missing woman can you name? What Indigenous missing woman can you name? What Asian missing woman can you name? What Hispanic missing woman can you name? And the biggest thing is, a lot of times in the United States, I shouldn't say a lot of times, the vast majority of the times, the United States does not want to face its racism. And this, we must protect the integrity of white women, is thoroughly based in racism, because during the time of slavery and even slightly beforehand, Indigenous women, and especially Black women, were both hypersexualized and hypermasculinized. And it was ingrained into people that you must protect the fragility, the femininity, and the integrity of white women, that they are the basis. Everything goes crazy. Hence, we got the Emmett Tills and various lynchings, and the reason why Black Wall Street was burned to the ground, because we realize that. That's why we say the most dangerous creature on this planet for any marginalized community is a white woman, and the greatest murder weapon is white woman tears, because they know how to weaponize it. We see it with Karens every single day. Right. They know exactly what to do. So when a white woman goes missing, it's an all points bulletin. But when any other woman goes missing, it's like, are you sure? We get excuses like, oh, well, I'm sure she's just with friends. Oh, I'm sure she's, just at a party. But if Rebecca, if Rebecca takes a little bit too long to get home after a frat party bender, there's already 6 search parties, headlines every 20 minutes, and she just comes stumbling through the door, and you're like, oh, her bad. Well, like, no. But these same white women are telling the rest of us BIPOC women to stand in unity with them to fight against these abortion laws. Sweetheart, they don't care if we have an abortion or not.
Right.
They'll gladly give us an abortion because they don't want us to continue to procreate. But you don't want to stand with us. You could end this cycle, but you choose not to. You choose not to stand in solidarity with us when we go missing. You sit there silently. The only time you care about something Black that's missing is if it's a Black dog.
You know how many resources are used when these missing cases hit the media, whether it's social media, world news, across the board. You name the network and it's flashing on your screen. Updates, on edge, in a year from now, it'll be a Lifetime movie or something. All these resources are just showing you how the value of individuals are and who's worth the the suspense of, well, we got to know what happened. We got to find this individual. We got to know what was it, the boyfriend, was it the neighbor, was it the guy at the local gas station. It gets so much attention that it goes back to the value of a human life and to certain human lives, certain lives of color, certain lives of white color, where, yeah, we could be broadcasting every day missing people, but how are they picking and choosing who these individuals are? I didn't know who these girls are. Like I said, these girls that go missing, we can go back to, Lacey Peterson and these other cases where I didn't know who these people were prior to them getting on the news. I mean, they weren't, the daughter of a celebrity or somebody. I mean, the fact that these people get in the news amazes me, because people go missing all the time. And the alert, the suspense of, we got to know what happened. We think it's a boyfriend. We think he did it. Let's see where he went. Oh, we're going to get information tomorrow about, a tape that's coming out. I mean, it's crazy to me. I mean, now I wish nobody harm. I mean, I don't, it's never one to glamorize, domestic issues that lead to tragedy, criminal activity. But we're still looking at the fact that there's legitimate people missing that do have value also, that do not even touch your TV screen. You'd have to dig in the internet somewhere to land, or like you were saying, have an app to actually find out there's people actually missing that might be in your town. You would never know about it. There's not people necessarily flashing that on your screen to show that, hey, that's down the street from me. I might need to keep my eye out for somebody. You would never know about it. Yet some other people are landing on, worldwide news, flashing on CNN or Fox, or it just astounds me, because every time it lands on all these networks and stuff, there is a major cost factor that goes into one individual. Where are those resources going for one individual? It takes a lot of investigators and detectives, etc., a lot of manpower hours. It takes a lot to engage in a search for a individual. Whereas we know there are multiple individuals that go missing. And they are, like we said, society has picked and chosen the value of who should we concentrate on this search. Oh yeah, we know these other three have been missing, but look at this one. Come to find out, there's a color difference. And it adds, like we were saying, it adds to that devaluing a person's worth. Oh yeah, they're gone. On to the next. I wonder what they did to get kidnapped. I wonder what they did. They probably fought back. They should have just gone along with what they said. They probably fought back and now they're dead. I mean, really?
And this lack of, and this placing,
the lack of compassion.
Yeah, the lack of compassion, the lack of empathy, and this acting as if we are products in a supermarket also delays law enforcement into establishing serial rapists, serial murderers, and
so
everything else. Because when you're sitting there telling Black and brown families that their child, their daughter, their son, their cousin, their best friend, their girlfriend, their husband, their wife, whoever, oh, well, y'all used to argue. They probably just got tired of you. They went away. They're at a party. It takes you longer to establish, wait a minute, we might have a serial rapist. Wait a minute, we may have a serial killer. Because look at how long Jeffrey Dahmer got away with doing what Jeffrey Dahmer was doing, because they were not equating his victims of color with anybody else.
Right.
They were so focused on the few white victims he had that went missing that they didn't connect the dots, that if they would have, he could have been stopped quite sooner, and so many people would not have had to die.
Well, when you're in the suburbs, being a serial killer is different than being in the hood as a serial killer. And we can look at all the way back to Ted Bundy you know, Dapper Ted, you know, Glamour GQ Ted, who's out there getting, you know, these college girls bouncing around from different states. Took them forever to put together a pattern of this guy who was clearly on a path, but you know, he was going to campuses, young college girls. That was his thing. Okay, what are we focusing on here? We're not focusing on this guy who, once again, didn't fit the profile. We're talking about a guy who studied law. Ted Bundy was not a complete idiot. You know, these people are very, you know, articulate and strategic, especially one that studies law. I mean, Ted Bundy, you know, like I said, for the nut he was, and I've seen enough documentaries. I did watch the one where it had the tapes and all that. These white men are more dangerous than any guy you're going to find out around town of color. Those are the ones I'm worried about. I'm not looking for you know, the black community out in a log cabin plotting to you know, be the next, you know, Unabomber, you know.
Nope.
So there's a pattern. Look at the history. Know your history. Where have the bombers come from? Where have the serial killers come from? These are coming from far right, anti-government, anti-democracy, you know, these are people that are putting value because they feel like no one's tracking us. They're tracking them, meaning communities of color. We're going under the radar. You know, who's watching us out in the backwoods? They're looking in the inner cities.
John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy. But as we conclude, just want to remind you all that October is a bit of a duality. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So to carry us out, here's this. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. And we will see you again next week.
Good night, everyone.